we've already touched on kind of expert feedback, and so I don't think we have to spend too much time. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about, the Unreasonable Institute.
Sure.
And that is a community. Could you speak to that?
Yeah. So I'm going to highlight two things then. I'm going to highlight Unreasonable, and then I'm going to talk about Pledge 1% and the Entrepreneurs Foundation, which are related organizations.
We're pledging 1% soon.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
I need to sign that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So Unreasonable is, really, it's a community of entrepreneurs working all around the world to solve problems that affect at least 1 million people. They can be for-profit businesses, they can be non-profit businesses, they can be in the U.S., they can be anywhere you want. We run institutes now in a handful of locations in Mexico and in Boulder, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so we have trained, I should know the number off the top of my head, it's like 110 entrepreneurs now to be better entrepreneurs, to better build their businesses. Oh, Uganda, I didn't say that, did I? We have a program in Uganda as well. Wow. And better impact the communities that they're trying to impact. Mm-hmm. And these are compelling stories, right? These are people, sort of the most memorable one is this former child soldier from Sierra Leone who's developed a business to basically retrain and reintegrate child soldiers from around that region. How can you not want someone like that to succeed?
Yeah. Right?
But there's millions of other examples of people trying to get healthcare to rural India, to build better stoves to serve rural populations around China and East Asia. It's just an incredible group of entrepreneurs. And of course, at the center sit these institutes that try to foster entrepreneurship, to try to foster connections in and amongst those people, and amongst mentors, and amongst capital sources for those types of projects. It's really, really powerful. It's really interesting. Actually, it reminds me, it's sort of separate but kind of related. One of the other things that I do is I'm an advisor to an investment fund that invests in Palestinian businesses. And about 2 years ago, I got a chance to go over to Palestine for a week and spend a week literally behind the wall and work with entrepreneurs in and around Ramallah awesome. Primarily. And it was really, really interesting to get a chance to be a part of this entrepreneurial community. We did a meetup. So we did a tech meetup in mm-hmm. Ramallah, and there were 150 people showed up to the tech meetup in Ramallah. There were probably 40 women there, which was really encouraging. It was just that evening was an incredible evening. It was really fun. But the whole week was fantastic, and I still am in touch with a number of the entrepreneurs that I worked with over there, and it's interesting to see the power of entrepreneurship. And the most impactful thing that someone said to me, and I think this is true whether you're an entrepreneur in Palestine or any other developing area, they basically said, look, whatever the solution is to, what in that case we all refer to as the political situation, but whatever the solution is, it has to involve jobs. Right, there's no solution if young Palestinians aren't working, right? Because there's too much time to do other things that aren't necessarily positive, and this is true of Israelis as well. So let me be part of as a young entrepreneur, I want to be a part of the find people jobs, build an economy solution, which I think is great. Yeah, really, really impactful. So that kind of thing's happening all over the world. The Unreasonable Institute is a great organization that's helping foster that all sorts of places. It's really exciting to see. The other thing we're going to talk about is Pledge 1% and the Entrepreneurs Foundation. So Pledge 1% is an organization that I helped found probably about a year ago now. Ryan Martins from Rally, Mark Benioff from Salesforce, Scott Farquhar from Atlassian. We all basically got together and said, hey, there was a model that was sort of entrepreneurs giving back through this thing called the Entrepreneurs Foundation. But the central EF organization was somewhat disbanding, and we thought, well, here's an opportunity. We kind of wanted to expand the model anyway. Here's an opportunity for us to step into that. And so Entrepreneurs Foundation of Colorado, along with the Salesforce Foundation, along with the Atlassian Foundation, we all came together and created Pledge 1%, which we launched maybe 4 or 5 months ago now. Yeah. If you go to pledge1%, spelled out, .org, you can find out all the information. And the idea is you pledge 1% of time, product, equity, company, or your own equity. And the idea is to give back to the community in a tangible, meaningful way. But before that actually means anything, right? Before we talked about sort of being at Techstars being at the nexus, the beginning of the start of all these businesses, and the idea of Pledge 1% is to be there as well and you're giving something you don't know what the value is, right? And maybe it turns into something really impactful, and maybe this wasn't the startup that works for you, but the idea that you're putting the stake in the ground that says, hey, if we're successful, my community is successful. Foundry's been a founding member of Entrepreneurs Foundation and now Pledge 1%. And the Entrepreneurs Foundation of Colorado, our local chapter, has given back over $3 million now to the local community. That's about to go up quite a bit with some stuff that's hopefully going to happen towards the end of the year. And that's exciting. I love that.
That's
right?
Really exciting.
I think Pledge can be a catalyst for, literally $1 billion going into social impact and local and national nonprofit organizations over the next 10 years as we get more and more companies. We're up to 346 companies in Pledge 1%.
Wow.
And that number is probably already inaccurate because we're signing people up every day, and that was from a few days ago. But I'd like this to be a movement, right? I think people should be thinking about how to give back to their communities because, of course, we don't grow our businesses in the absence of our communities. Our employees live here. We commute through. We eat at local eatery. We are so ingrained in our local communities, whether our business is focused locally or nationally or internationally. Where and how we build our businesses is really important.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, we've thought about trying to do something like maybe not stamp $5 bills with the handshake logo, but something that shows that you're paying it forward and giving it first. And Shakers, that's just back to the same thing we've been talking about. Give first, just being a humble, genuine person and making big things happen through giving. That is so much cool stuff you guys are up to here. Wow. So let's for time's sake, let's move on, and I think we can probably conclude expert feedback off the bat. You've kind of advised us specific and relevant are the emails you try to get back to, right?
Absolutely.
What else would you recommend the Shakers out there who are trying to get meetings with the 1% or an investor? How do they get in front of them?
Yeah, so the good news is there's lots of entrepreneurial events around Colorado and around the country, and so I think there are lots of opportunities for people to kind of put themselves out there, and I think that's sitting behind your computer and shooting off a bunch of emails and hoping that investors get back to you that's a strategy, right? And if you craft them well, you may get some thoughts back from some investors. But the reality is that if you're out there raising sort of first capital, one, likely that's not to be institutional capital, and two, you really need to just get out there and kind of be scrappy and scramble. Of course, I always tell people the cheapest capital is sell something people want to buy. Sell something people want to buy, right? So revenue, order of hierarchy, revenue beats getting investor capital, but obviously a lot of companies need some capital in order to build that first product, and so people invest in startups, especially at the very early stage, because they're either very passionate about the idea or they're very passionate about the entrepreneur, right? So that should be your filter. Find those people that are really passionate about you or about what you're doing. Those are the people that are going to invest, right? The people that are not going to invest are the people that want to go through your spreadsheet and see your 5-year model. Like that's not what drives people to invest $50,000 into a seed stage company that's just an idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
they're passionate about you. They're passionate about what you're doing. So you want to lead with that. Like your pitch needs to be around your passion. Why do you want to do this? Why does this market need to change? Right? And get people to be passionate either about that or about you, and the way you get people passionate about you is you show passion.
Yeah, and that's like the importance of storytelling, Shakers. It's telling a story to someone who cares about the story you're telling, relevant story to the person you're telling it to, and how important that is. It's either your product or you. That's great advice, Shakers. We haven't had a handshaking guest say that. That's great. That's great. I'm going to take that.
As part of that, you need to learn how to describe your business in a couple of sentences, right? One of the things that we do at Techstars, and we do at a bunch of different sort of accelerator programs that I've been involved with, is we spend a huge amount of time practicing what you call your elevator pitch, but it's really your 3 sentences, 1 minute on what you do, because companies are really bad at doing that, right? Or people at companies are really bad at doing that. And so I think one of the things that Shakers can spend some more time on is practicing that a lot to other people who are not in their business and don't necessarily know what they do, because when you're putting yourself out there and you're at one of these events, you need to be able to say, hey, we do this for this market. And this is why it's exciting.
Yeah.
Right? You want people to, you get like a minute to get people to get excited about what you're doing or move on and, go shake the next hand.
Yeah, absolutely. But by organizing Startup Denver, I've always told people that you need to have that one sentence so I can go and tell someone else about it. It needs to be concise so that it's shareable.
Right, exactly.
So, Or a 1 minute, video if you can put it online. Not these long videos that we just indulge in just chatting handshakes for so long. But a 1 minute pitch video is really powerful too, I think. For
Sort of product sales 101 for B2B and B2C businesses is to have a short little video so you can show people what you do. Because telling people what you do doesn't always get the idea across. So, certainly for Foundry, when we are hearing pitches from entrepreneurs, we like to jump into the demo. I like to hear the backstory, right? The founding story is really important to me. I like to know why did someone, that goes to passion, right? Why did someone start this business? So I always want to hear that, hear a little bit about their background. And then, typical venture pitch is, problem, solution, market, product. And so maybe we touch on a few of those other things, but I really like to get into the demo as soon as possible. Like I want them to show me, what does your product do, right? Because that's where it all comes out. Like, okay, this is we took all of the passion about this problem, and we created this thing, and this is our version of a solution to it.
Yeah, man, that's exciting. That's exciting. So conclusions for getting in front. How do people get that pitch with you? We said email, concise, relevant, story, passion. People who are pitching Seth should know what Seth is passionate about and pitch him on that either with their product or person, right? I think that's a safe conclusion for the Shakers, right?
Right, absolutely. And come, if you come with a question, right? I mean, I don't mind when people email me, hey, I want your advice about X and Y. It's such an easier way to start a dialogue, right? I mean, I use this too sometimes when I'm trying to get in front of people and get someone's attention is, rather than sort of get right to the like, hey, I need your help with this, some big picture thing, or hey, I want a meeting. You say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I could use your advice on this little thing that would be concise enough for someone else to email me back or me to email someone else back. So I'd start with that, and I think one of the powers of being able to go to Denver Startup Week and going to Mentor office hours is that you do get 15 minutes in front of whoever it is that you're sitting with, right? And I think those are really effective ways to kind of get your message across. And then you've developed a little bit of a relationship. And I still hear from people that I met years ago at an office hours event who, are either giving me an update or, telling me what they're up to, things like that. So, it's not that funding necessarily comes from those sorts of events. And obviously it's important to recognize, for a firm like Foundry, we see 5,000 or 6,000 investment opportunities a year, and we do 8. So, the math is not exactly skewed in the favor of the next deal coming in being the deal that we do. But, but that said, one, there are examples of investor or of entrepreneurs that we've invested in maybe after a few years of going back and forth, maybe not with the first idea, but with the next idea. And two, again, there's nothing bad can come out of establishing relationships with people. And I still have people that I email back and forth with. We're not investors in their business, but where they established a relationship with me either through email or at an event of some kind, and they asked some questions, and maybe they sent me some things that were helpful to me. Hey, I saw this article. I always love that, right? When people actually make an attempt to sort of give back, like, hey, I saw this, I thought it'd be relevant. Or congrats on the such and such, right? As opposed to every email being, hey, can I get your take on this? What do you think about that? Hey, do you know so and so?
Yeah.
So I like those entrepreneurs that have been able to establish more of a kind of a two-way relationship, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're highlighting something that I think is really important for the Shakers to take away. You're talking about email and kind of communicating that way, but then you're also talking about in-person office hours, and it's so important. Once you actually meet someone face to face, it changes the relationship if it started online or it kicks it off, and really it raises trust, credibility, and there's just so much more. You have their full attention. We're not texting. We're not on Skype with this going on over here. Just the importance of FaceTime and going to office hours.
I think that's right. And I mean, listen, I still have lists of people that I'm sort of keeping my eye out, and I've used various technologies, all of which seem to get bought by someone else and then get pulled off the market, to like keep track of events around people that I care to interact with. And so I use these techniques as well, where I'll send a note to someone and say, hey, and even people that I now know relatively well, but hey, I saw this. Awesome, really excited for you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it just makes them feel like you're, and those are nice emails. I'm not asking them anything. I'm just saying, hey, awesome. They get to sort of hit delete. I don't expect them to send a note back, although most people say thanks. But it's a nice way to stay in touch with people. That's low impact, makes them know that you're thinking about them. And I like it when people do that to me as well, because it makes me feel like we're in a two-way relationship, not just a one-way relationship. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of just, I don't know the answer to that. Let me go ping Seth or Brad or whoever about that.
Yeah.
And they probably will get a response, but it sometimes feels like there's a few people that ping me a lot, and it just sort of feels like, all right, enough already.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Right? And again, we're back to give first, right?
Absolutely.
So you need to figure out what are ways, even if you're not giving first in that type of relationship, what are ways you can give back to the relationship.
Yeah, now I got to pause because I got an email from someone that was just 100% relevant to shaking hands, and we're here on the Handshaking video series. I think I'll share it. And it's actually someone I view more as a mentor than a mentee, so that was very nice of him to send. It's Drew Lawrence at Full Contact, which I believe is one of you guys' companies.
Company, yeah.
And Drew sent me an article, Shakers, that said the #1 predictor of career success is having an open network rather than a closed network. So what that means is you're going around shaking a lot of hands, right? And that was just perfectly relevant. You know, I read through it and was just so excited. I think I shared it before even finishing it because I just had to get it out there. It's insane the stats on this article that they had on how important it is to really go and connect with a lot of different people. You know, for the traditional 9-to-5ers out there, I think it's almost more of a traditional 9-to-5ers, younger folks that are considering launching their business. It's almost a warning sign that it's going to be very important to go out there and meet with a lot of different people, meet with a lot of different leaders. Don't just get stuck in a closed network. Because that's a way that blocks out new ideas.
Yeah, so there's a rule called Metcalfe's Law, which is intended to describe the behavior of networks, not specifically these types of networks, but nodal networks, which is that the power of a network increases exponentially with the number of nodes on the network. Now, it's not a perfect proxy for the type of network we're talking about, but it generally holds true too.
Yeah.
Right? So, the power of your network is increased the more people you know. And by the way, they're great tools that you can use to keep track of this. So one, you've got Gmail or some other contact, hopefully using Full Contact to help enrich all those contacts. I find that actually very invaluable. And by the way, one of the things they do that I love is that they'll import pictures of people.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that because I've got I have thousands and thousands of contacts. I don't remember everyone. By the way, as an aside, it's also, I try to do this too. It's very helpful. When I see someone I haven't seen in a while, and I go up and say hi, I'll give them the context again. Hi, Seth Levine from Foundry. We met at such and such, if I remember that. Or we last talked at such and such. I also really like when people do that to me because I think I have a decent memory, but I don't have an awesome memory for faces and every detail. And so it's very helpful when someone comes up to me and says, hey, Seth, it's Jim Smith, and we met at the Denver startup event. I asked you that question about, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So that's super helpful as an aside. But anyway, there's all these great tools to keep track of your networks, and I totally agree with what you said. Like the power of your ability to network increases exponentially with the number of people that you've added to your network.
Yeah, good stuff. So Seth, what is one action item that the Shakers can take immediately after this video to help them on their journey?
Awesome. I'm going to give you two. First is to sign up for Pledge 1%. And I'm not just saying that sort of in the abstract. That's a great way to put a stake in the ground about this sort of give first mentality. And I think that's meaningful, especially in the Colorado community, but I think even broader outside of that. So that's thing one. Thing two, which is going to sort of sound obvious, but it's to get out there, right? Sometimes entrepreneurs sort of tinker and sit at home and they get very focused on what they're doing, and they sort of forget that there's this whole world of feedback and people that want to be helpful and that they can bounce their ideas off of. And the best way to do that is to get themselves out there. I mean that literally and figuratively, right? Figuratively get out there by sending their network notes on what they're doing and ask them questions and engage them and try to get feedback from their network, from customers, etc. But also literally get out there, go to events like Denver Startup Week, like New Tech Meetup, other places where they're going to interact with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is not practiced in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It's not. There it is, Shakers. And Seth isn't the first to say that. Eric Matisek said, get out there and do something today. Anything, even if it's the wrong thing. Telling your network about what you're doing. Even that's a huge step. So get out there, Shakers. So Seth, if we want to find you online, where can we find you?
You can find me at foundrygroup.com. You can find me, Seth, at sethlevine.com. And you can find me at Sether on Twitter.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining the Handshaking video series.
Awesome.
Shakers, see you later.